to one beat, crushing the enemy under our feet. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. We are united in Jesus. We are the soldiers of the land. We don't wrestle flesh and blood, but principalities of the dark. We too are marching to one beat, crushing the enemy under our feet. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. In our hearts we have a vision. We have made our decision to show the Father's love with great power from above. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the light. We don't wrestle flesh and blood, but principalities of the dark. We too are marching to one beat, crushing the enemy under our feet. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. Let us reach this generation, every tribe and every nation, for we've overcome the world by the blood of Christ the Lamb. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the light. We don't wrestle flesh and blood, but principalities of the dark. We too are marching to one beat, crushing the enemy under our feet. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. Lord our God is a sword and shield. Lord our God is a sword and shield. Lord our God is a sword and shield. Lord our God is a sword and tower. Lord our God is a sword and the rock of faith. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the light. We don't wrestle flesh and blood, but principalities of the dark. We too are marching to one beat, crushing the enemy under our feet. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. Lord our God is a sword and shield. The Lord our God is a sword and shield. Lord our God is a sword and shield. Lord our God is a mighty tower. Lord our God is a sword and the rock of faith. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the light. We don't wrestle flesh and blood, but principalities of the dark. We too are marching to one beat, crushing the enemy under our feet. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. We too are marching to one beat, crushing the enemy under our feet. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. We are mighty in our stand, with God's word in our hand. We are mighty.
Talk show host up here, right? And the music ends and we start.
Celebrity guest.
Yeah, no, this is not that. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming today. My name is Laura Gilleland, and I am a preschool teacher here at Emmanuel. This is my third year back teaching preschool. It's what I went to school to be and do, and I love being back in the classroom. Before that, I was the children's ministry director here at Emmanuel for about 7 years. That was my part-time gig while I was home with my kids. And I have 3 kids, one who is a freshman in college at the University of Iowa, and 2 who are in high school, junior and a freshman. They're all boys. And my husband, Brian, who's on a hunting trip with his dad right now, is normally here with me on Sunday mornings as well. I don't mind talking in front of a group of people. That's why I usually say yes to Don, except for like right now, I feel like nervous. So bear with me if I feel like I'm stumbling. I'll soon get comfortable and feel fine. But we're going to be talking about the love language of acts of service today. But before we go into that, I just kind of want to do a little recap. I know we've kind of been doing that every single week, but I'm going to put a little twist and a little turn on it this week of our recap. I kind of want to do a little chat first of combining the 2 series that we've been going through the last 6 weeks here at Emmanuel. In this room, we've been doing the 5 love languages, of course, right? But in church, we've been covering the Being Challenge. Here's the book that Pastor Tiemann has been kind of going through. We're on week 6 this week. And if you know anything about the Being Challenge, it's all about being, how we can be like Jesus. Zach Zedner wrote the book. It's great. I recommend you get it. That's why I brought it today. We have more in the church office, right? And you can stop by and grab one. If you can't afford the $20 that it is, I'm sure they'd be happy to just give you one. It's 40 days of readings, but of how we can grow closer to being with Jesus. And it goes through these 5 main steps and ways to be closer to Jesus. The first being choosing or committing to your community, that you surround yourself with a community of believers, of Christian friends who can help support you. Number 2, prioritizing prayer in your life. That prayer is an important part. It grows your relationship with Jesus. Studying scripture, actually being in the Word. I know the Bible is big, right? And it's daunting. But if you just choose a chapter, it's not so bad. And just start to read and see how that fills you. Don't let it be such a daunting task. Number 4, solitude, seeking solitude. Just that quiet time with God and having your minds and thoughts and your hopes and your dreams with Him, that quiet time with Him. And then last, choosing church, which is what we'll be talking about, or what we did talk about this morning, and we'll be at 11 o'clock service. And all those 5 pieces come together so that we can grow closer to Him. And I'm a firm believer that when we're really close to Him, then we grow so strong in that we want to share that with others. So here we are close to Him, sharing with others. What shape am I making? Cross. Yeah, I didn't come up with that, guys. Yeah, somebody else. But it's awesome, right? And so take that Being Challenge, what you've heard there, and now let's apply it right here, where we've been talking about loving others. This whole 5 love languages is all about loving others. And it's not about you. Every week I've said to myself, as I've either sat in here or watched it online, I've said to myself, it is just loving others is a selfless act, is really what it comes down to. So that's the combination of the 2. At first I thought, boy, we're all different directions here at church doing different things. And I got to apply it and put it all together, and I love it. So we are going to start by talking about love and what the Bible says about love. And some of these verses that we read are going to sound really familiar to you. But today I want you to just absorb what we're hearing the Bible say about love. And so if you have your Bible with you, I've listed the page number for the first one we're going to read, which is 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 8. You have it on your phone. If you have this Bible, you can turn to that page. This is going to sound familiar. You've heard it at weddings. But again, think in terms of what love is. This is Paul writes this. This is in the New Testament. Paul is writing this to the Corinthians. And remember that Paul is starting up the church after Jesus' death. So 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 8. Would someone be willing to read that? Okay, thank you.
If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and understanding all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away.
Thank you. Thank you. So, love is all of these things, right? The selfless acts. Now let's turn to the next one. 1 John 4, 7 through 21. This is John, the apostle, writing this. John, who wrote the book of John in the Gospels, also writes this about love. So 1 John 4, 7 through 21 is a little bit longer. Is anyone willing to read this one? Nancy?
Sure. Thank you. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. This is how we know that we live in him and he in us. He has given us of his Spirit, and we have seen and testified that the Father has sent his Son to be the Savior of the world. If anyone acknowledges that Jesus is the Son of God, God lives in them and they in God. And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister, whom they have seen, cannot love God, whom they have not seen. And he has given us this command: anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister.
Thank you. So we see from these two readings that God is commanding us to love one another, that selfless, humble act of loving. And that's what the Bible really is about. So love is putting someone else before you, serving someone else, and doing those things in that complete humility. So now we're going to turn one more time. And now we're going to turn to this acts of service, how we serve somebody else. And I have a perfect example of a complete humble act of service of Jesus, something that Jesus did. And so we're going to turn to John 13, 1 through 17. And this is before Jesus is going to the cross. This is him at the Last Supper with his disciples. John 13, 1 through 17. If anyone would be willing to read that one, I can do it. Okay, thank you.
It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped the towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. he came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you," for he knew who was going to betray him. That was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them."
Thank you. No servant is greater than his master. Back in Bible times, you remember, they were walking around with sandals on dirt roads, and their feet were really dirty. And think of what you think of feet right now is probably what they thought of feet then too. And so, and the job of washing feet was left to the servants. And the disciples never washed feet even. So for Jesus to wrap this towel around his waist and do something that a servant did, gosh, that spoke words to them and filled them with that message of complete humility and complete humbleness of serving someone else completely out of what you want to do. It's for the other person. So here we are talking about acts of service today. And we're going to wrap the talk today in two different little chunks. First chunk, we're going to talk about acts of service with your spouse, your loved one, your partner, your significant other, okay? And then we're going to kind of wrap that piece up and then talk about acts of service if that's our child's love language. Let me rewind just a little bit. Those of you who maybe haven't been here, remember with love languages that Gary Chapman, the author of the book, The 5 Love Languages, says that he noticed that there were, so many couples coming to him having some maybe communication issues. And so he said it all boiled down to 5 different ways that he started noticing that each person has a love language inside of them. And the 5 ways are physical touch, words of affirmation, receiving gifts. I'm blank on the other one. Acts of service, of course. What is it, Leanne? Quality time. I like to remember. Quality time. And those 5 things. And then there's a test to take to kind of see where you fall, what love language you speak, what fills you, what fills your love tank. And so if you haven't done this yet, the test is here on the table. You can just circle the answers and figure out what your love language is and how your significant other can help fill that love language of yours. That being said, we all, I think, need a little bit of filling of all of them, right? That we sprinkle in love languages or need that all those little things, but there's one primary love language that really fills us, that really fills our love tank, he calls it. And so today we're talking about if acts of service is your love language that would fill your tank, well then this is speaking to you today. So if you are married to somebody whose love language is acts of service, I'm talking to you a little bit today too. So you're going to be seeking to serve that person or please that person by serving them, by doing things for them. You're going to do it, hopefully, with a positive spirit. We're going to chat about that in a little bit because acts of service can get kind of interesting. And it can be physically and emotionally draining. It takes time. It's not like words of affirmation where you can just say some quick words or the rub on the back with physical touch. It takes some effort and time to do something, this act of service for somebody else. So with that, can be some things. I bet I saw a few smiles on your faces when I said it needs to be done with a positive spirit. And this wasn't hard for me to find, but I was just quickly looking on the internet and was able to find some memes about in relation to acts of service. Take a look at this one. So there could be times when you just want, like, I did this. You need to help, like, you need to notice it. Maybe that's not really where we should be going with that. Take a look at this one. I don't know if you can read it. Another piece. When you're helping somebody, or when somebody's helping you, do you react in a way, well, you're not doing it right. That's not how I would have done it. Let the person help you how they want to help you. And then the next one is kind of in the same family. He tried. Trying to help somebody. I remember my dad throwing in a load of laundry when I was in high school. That was a big deal that my dad threw in this load of laundry for my mom. She must have been busy. And I remember him calling me, Laura, and I look in the washer and everything was pink. It was like in the movies. I'm like, Dad, I don't know how to help you. And my mom came home and I remember she fixed it. How she did that? That's pretty amazing, right? Something with bleach and who knows, got that red whatever out of there. But it was worth it. He tried. And I do recall that he did not sleep on the sofa that night. So I think he was fine. But acts of service, you can have all these little tweaks to it. It's how we react. It's how we give. So that positive spirit, but also our reaction. We are going to watch a quick, is that where I'm at done? Oh, no. Yeah, no. We're going to watch a video in just a second. Acts of service requires good communication. Talking to your spouse, your significant other, about what it is that would actually really help you and how you talk to them. So now we're going to watch a video. We'll do the full video. And we'll do the full video. We're going to watch this video. This is a comedian. His name is Jeff Allen. He's a Christian comedian. He did not start out as a Christian comedian. He was in the comedy circuit, kind of going down a dark road, but then turned his life around. He's a Christian comedian, but now he's talking about that husband-wife relationship. The first half, or not first half, a quarter, third of it is just setting the stage a little bit for what I want to talk about, which is the communication piece, which will be about the second half, and we'll chat about it when it's done. So enjoy the video.
We've been married 32 years, and my father gave me one really wise piece of advice before I got married, and it's held true for 32 years. On my wedding day, my father said to me, before you argue with your new wife, and you're going to argue with her, before you do, take some time, step back, ask yourself two questions. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Right. And then he broke down and sobbed right in front of me. I had no idea what that man was talking about. 32 years later, I can tell you this, I'm a happy, happy, happy man. I ain't been right in 12 years now. Sometimes I even have to ask her, am I happy? Oh, you better believe you're happy. I was just checking with you, Buttercup. I gotta call my friends up. I can't go golfing, but I'm a happy, happy, happy man. And don't get me wrong, we argue. You've got to argue in your marriage. You don't argue in your marriage, it'll build up in your brain over time and fries your brain. Yeah, and then you wind up like those babbling, mumbling couples you've seen in Arizona, Florida. These 50-plus years of marriage, they're kind of walking down the street. The wife is fine. It's the poor husband 8 feet behind her that scares me to death. This poor man's all hunched over, he's vibrating, mumbling. Oh, he's telling me what to do. I'm gonna start telling you what to do. I'm a man, you can't tell. I'm a man. This poor guy's starting to try to win back all the arguments he's been throwing away for 50 years. You know, he was 6'3" when he got married. Now he's 4'1". Look at the poor man. Weighed down by half a century of apathy. Leave a toilet seat up if I want to leave a toilet seat up. Tell me what to do. I hope you sit in the water every night. I don't care. And that's when she turns around. What'd you just say to me? I didn't say nothing to you. scary. You have to learn how to communicate. That's the word, communication. You have to learn how your spouse communicates. That takes time. Men and women communicate differently. It took me 2 years of marriage to figure out my wife will never tell me to do anything around our home. If Tammy wants me to do something, she'll ask me a question. It's from the question that I got to stand there and figure out what it is she wants me to do. Simple example, say I leave a pair of my underwear in the middle of the bedroom floor, which frosts my wife. That's her word when she's angry. That just frosts me, Jeffrey. If I'm not frosting her, I'm driving her up a wall. That's another one. Kids would come in. Where's Mom? She's up the wall with frostbite. That's all I know. You won't believe what put her there, man. It was that pair of underwear in the middle of the bedroom floor. You're looking at the most powerful piece of cotton on planet Earth. So I leave my underwear in the middle of the room. Would she come to me and say to me, pick those up? That's 3 words. Hey, pick those up. 3 words! Would she say no? Because that would be simple, direct, and right to the point. And at that moment, we would be communicating at the highest human level. The way God, the Creator, intended it, through language. She looks at me, looks at my underwear, and then asks, are those yours? I sure hope they are, otherwise I got a few questions of my own. What do you want? That's the only question a man has for his wife. What do you want? Quit talking in code and tell me what you want. My favorite question, we weren't married 2 months. I'm leaving the house. I got golf clubs on my shoulder, got golf shoes in my hand, and everybody knows what she asked me. Where are you going? I was only married a couple months. I didn't know any better. I'm going bowling, Columbo. What do you... If you're taking notes, that would be the wrong answer. An hour later, I was still in my living room. Come on, tell me, what is this about? Please, let me know, please. I can make the back nines, just let me know. It's about knowing the right answer. That's why your beautiful, intelligent wife would ask such a banal question. I know better today. If I'm leaving the house with golf clubs on my shoulder today and Tammy says, where are you going? We'll put these in the car, baby. I'm going to come back and mow our lawn. That's just practicing leaving for golf.
We're not direct, right? He said communicating at the highest level, right? It's just language, right? To say exactly what we want. And so acts of service really kind of falls into that part. We know what we want that other person to do for us, if that's your love language, but we just have to say it. We have to say it. Gary Chapman goes into this whole story in the acts of service chapter of this book. A very long story about this couple that is married, having some issues and some struggles, and their biggest thing is that they're not speaking the right dialect, is what he calls it. I know we've heard this dialect. He goes into it in all the different ways, but speaking, we're not doing the right dialect, let's say, or speaking it and asking for them to do what we really need them to do. So he says in here, the couple that's in here, the husband's like, well, I mow the lawn for you. And I wash the car for you. And she said, I don't need you to do that. I need you to walk in the door and change the diaper and give the baby a bath while I'm getting dinner ready. That would be amazing. And she just needed to say it. And he's like, why didn't you ever tell me? So say what it is that really fills you, that would really be speaking and filling that love tank. But that last piece, no criticizing or making demands for it. Say it in just that loving way. This is what I really need from you. So, requests give direction for love. Demands stop the flow of love. So just in that heartfelt way, requests give the direction. Demands stop the flow. Last, acts of service can be kind of a little bit wrapped up a little bit with stereotypical roles. Think of how you were raised. And that's that reference in the same, the couple that I was just referencing in the book. Gary Chapman says one of their biggest struggles was that the husband was mowing the lawn and washing the car because that's what his dad did. And that's what worked. Well, it didn't work. It's not working for his wife. And it doesn't mean that you have to do exactly what your parents did or how you were raised. Break free of those stereotypical roles and the different perceptions that we have. Anybody can do anything, right? So figure out what works best for you. So before we go on with anything else, I'm talking about, I kind of want to wrap this up and have some discussion now amongst us about how acts of service kind of might fill you. Maybe that's your love language. What are some questions you might have? I don't know much. I've just read this book, but we could maybe facilitate some discussion here together and questions you might have, but also things that work for you, something that has worked for your family. Do you have any thoughts on that? Amongst your spouse, loved one? Oh, come on.
Oh, good. All right. This is probably very off topic, but in our house, Joel does laundry. It's just how it evolved. And on your red pink thing, we did that a couple times, and now all the whites go to the cleaners.
Not all the whites. Socks too?
No. Dress shirts.
dress shirts.
Anything that needs to stay white goes.
So you figured out a way that everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just saying, if there's issues with people with red laundry, pink laundry.
Maybe figure out a way that make everybody happy in the house. Yeah.
Well, Jill likes Diet Coke, and we were at our family gathering and at our farm, and we were having a picnic outside, and I went inside and got a Diet Coke, had it for her, and she thought the world had changed or something, and I was like, a Diet Coke could do that. That's really nice.
Something so simple.
So simple.
It
Yeah.
usually is a simpler thing, like, it takes something away from what you have to do all the time, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, you thought of me to do that? I didn't have to go and get that. I mean, really, it was like amazing. Nobody had really done, and we were still in our day, people hadn't really done that, and I was so independent and did everything, that game changer.
Game changer. Yeah, just something so simple.
Yes.
I feel that way about coffee. Yeah.
I don't drink coffee, but
Yeah. It's a game changer. That's really nice. Right. I was going down to the copier here at school this week, grabbing some stuff that I had sent to the printer. This is about 3:00 in the afternoon. And I walk in and there's nothing that had come out of the printer. And the red light is flashing, meaning it's out of paper. And so I go in the queue. We've got, thankfully, a nice copier. And I can read in the queue that the paper ran out at about 1:00, and it's now 3. And there's a backlog of pages long of people sending stuff to the copier who haven't been down there yet to grab it. So I went to the office, grab a stack of paper, start putting it in the printer, and in walks another teacher who's coming to grab her stuff. And we start talking, and we get on the subject of the love languages, and she says, I read the book, my husband and I have done it together, and she's like, acts of services mean way, way much. Like, and she's like, I can tell you complete examples right now. She's like, one, he got I think they canoe or kayak or something like that, and they got to go and get it set up and get like a ticket. I wasn't listening to all the details. I mean, I listened, but I didn't remember all the details. And I just remember her saying that fact that he just went and did it one day, and she came home and it was done. She's like, that was awesome and amazing. And then she came to me the next day. We were in the hall, and she's like, he did another thing last night. I walked in the door. It's been a busy week. And there on the counter was a note that said, I made a lasagna. It's in the fridge. Put it in at 5. I'll be home at 6. We'll be ready to eat. She's like, that was amazing. Dinner was made. I didn't have to do that. So just those simple acts of service. Now, to me, lasagna seems like a lot of work, but it could be something easy and ways to serve the other person with a positive spirit. Any other thoughts on that, Taylor?
one of the things that we found works really well for us is
my husband will, do a lot of different projects around the house, and we had the discussion of, okay, well, that's important to you, but that's maybe not what's on my priority list. So we found that if we make a list and I star the things next to it, he's serving in that way, but it's also aligning with kind of like our priorities. And it
Yeah.
helps us to prioritize, and then everybody feels like, wow, this is such a really, good example of servanthood.
It's filling me too. Yeah, exactly. There's that communication piece is huge with this. So actually, if you guys have your papers that you got here today, if you flip to the back, the continued study, I just want to highlight a couple things about this whole marriage piece or ways to serve those, your significant other. That first one there under questions. Many acts of service include household chores, but not all. So what are some non-chore ways of serving your spouse or partner? Think of any non-chore ways. The Diet Coke. It's not really a chore.
Ari is obviously involved in a lot of stuff, so just something as small as like taking her to gymnastics and giving me that hour and a half to do the chores at home or anything, work, I think that it helps, because I always, the mindset of like, someone once told me like I don't have to do something, in terms of like taking her to gymnastics, whatever, but I get to, but just to free up, like I said, that time of, taking her there and whatnot, just, it helps me, accomplish whatever else needs to be done.
That's huge. Yeah. The helping to drive. Anyone else, any non-chore ways? It's okay.
And I just want to say, I think sometimes when the other person does something that you weren't even thinking about, that you really even needed, like the Diet Coke, okay? But sometimes it's just a simple being in tune to, like he was talking about guessing. I mean, you don't want to have to guess all that kind of stuff, but if you know one simple little thing that you could do, it can be simpler than the big things. I think that's what acts of service, we get all, it takes work, it takes this, it takes communication, it does, but sometimes it just takes a little observation or a little, just a little paying attention. And then it's simple. It makes it more simple.
I agree. And knowing that that's your spouse's love language, like to again, that whole love piece, that not selfish piece, to do that for them because it would fill them. What would be something so simple that you could do to just put a smile on their face or make them feel like this day is getting just a little bit better because of that? So, yes.
I'm Caitlin Johnson's mom visiting, but I've read this book and it really gave me insight into myself of why I am a certain way. And so I grew up with a grandma who lived in our home, and one of her sayings was always, don't make more work for somebody else. So I had this in my mind going into marriage, and my husband is a great guy, but he's very forgetful of things. And one thing that has always been a bone of contention was he would bring dirty dishes and just leave them on the counter. And I'd walk in there, I'd see them, and then it was like, the dishwasher, and then I would say, sarcasm, I'm afraid I go into, the dishwasher's right here, it's never been moved, just move from here to there. And so, and he says, oh, I'm sorry, put it in. And if I would just communicate, as she said, in a direct way, when I see them, to say, would you please put these in the dishwasher? But no, I move into a situation where I'll say, I think I need to rig up this counter with some electrical siren, when you put them on the counter and it goes off, it gets your attention, and that's never really effective. But yet I find myself falling into that position. But, I say, why am I like this? And it's because, I'm remembering my grandma would say, don't cheat, he's making more work for me by not doing this. And in opening this little view on myself and how I can step back and think that it's not that he's personally trying to say, I don't love you, so I'm going to leave these dishes here. No, that's not what he's saying, but I interpret it that way sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. But that's real life, right? Yeah. I remember my husband coming home with his coffee Yeti thing years ago. And I just have gotten the kitchen clean. And he sets that down. And I'm like, for real? And he's like, his response was, I never asked you to wash it. Like, I don't need it to be washed. I'll just pour coffee in it tomorrow and live for weeks like that. And it needs to be washed every day. But he's like, I never asked you to do it. And then, reflecting on myself, this was during a particular part where I was doing a Bible study. We were talking a lot about doing things for others like you were doing it for Jesus. And I literally in that moment said to myself, if this was Jesus, you better believe I'd wash his cup every day. And so now, whenever he sets it down, ever since then, I just wash the mug. Darn mug. Stop and get like a Starbucks. But anyway, but yeah, just speak, but also just speaking, just real words, real language. That's what you need. So, yeah. Question? Yeah.
I think I was struck when you said that, like, don't announce that you did it. And so my love language is words. And so I do announce when I do something. And it's not because I'm like, hey, give me credit. It's genuinely like, I want you to know I did that because I love you. But to me, it's like, I would need to hear that to interpret it that way. So, like, I don't know. I was just really struck by the fact that it would be, better received by just doing it and not announcing it. Because to me, it's like, you need to hear the words for that to like really sink in.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess if you're not getting any like anger back at you and it works for you, then that's.
Well, I just thought it was a cool way to interpret it because I realized like I was still using my love language even when I was trying to do acts.
Yes. Well, we speak the language that fills us. That's one big thing that he keeps saying in the book is you typically show others the language that fills you. So if you are a quality time person, you're going to probably give quality time. That's why they say if you want to figure out what someone's love language is, just watch them and see what they do. Are they walk in the room and pat you on the back kind of person? Maybe they're probably physical touch. So, but knowing what your spouse's love language is too. I want to draw your attention, guys, to the ideas portion down here. And the first one says, make a list of all the requests your spouse has made of you over the past few weeks. Select one each week and do it as an expression of love. That's an idea. Or ask your spouse to make a list of 10 things he or she would like you to do over the next month and make an effort to do them as an expression of love. So Taylor, that kind of goes along with what you were saying, like working together. Let's figure out what we'll do together. This next one just makes me smile. But it says, are you trying to get your spouse or loved one to do some acts of service? Are your requests coming off as nags or put downs? Try praising when they meet your love language. Say something like, I really love the yard after you mow it. It looks so nice and I appreciate your work. Thank you in advance for mowing before our guests come over on Friday night. I think that works. That's how we all talk together. That's how Brian and I talk. And but it is an idea to praise, like when you do see something good. Like when your husband does put the dishes in the dishwasher, maybe, oh, that was really nice. I didn't have to do that today. Thank you, actually. So, yeah.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback on the importance of communication, I think, and because I think there are certain people that find some chores therapeutic and maybe just communicate so you're not doing something that maybe they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe like mowing the lawn.
Then you do it and then you get in trouble for doing it because they wanted to do it.
They wanted to do it. So communicating again.
Probably more rare, but
Yeah.
but certain instances.
Well, that same person that I was talking to about acts of service here at work, she said, like mowing the lawn, she's like, I knew my neighbor was out mowing the lawn with his headphones in to get away from the family inside. And yet he would say he was doing it as an act of service, but I really think he was just really taking his time out there. So what are your intentions? What's your motivation? Yeah. So really to please that other person. So.
Well, they're going to be trying to be glad that he's getting away from them too.
Yeah, well, we all need a break too, right? Absolutely. So, all right, now we're going to change gears and we're going to talk a little bit about acts of service if it's our child's love language, or maybe another loved one, like a parent or something, because that's a little bit different, especially with children. So acts of service with our children. If it's your child's love language, which I think that's a tricky one to see or feel, right? Because parenting is a service-oriented vocation anyway, right? We're always giving, we're always doing things for them. We are to do what is best for our loved ones, but not just to please them. So we're kind of thinking in terms of always, right, as parents, we want to foster independence in our kids and skills in our kids. And those skills need to be age appropriate, those things that they do. So when they're babies, if they start learning to feed themselves, well, then they need to learn how to feed themselves, right? And we take that step back and they start doing that. When they get a little bit older, if they can make their bed, they should make their bed. Or when they're even older than that, if they can do their own laundry, then we teach them how to do their own laundry. So all of those things are kind of an act of service that we do for them, but really we should be fostering that independence and those skills on their own. So how do we speak their love language how do we speak their love language when you're doing things for them or you're trying to foster that independence more so? So we're going to chat about that here. There's a story in, kind of flip that slide a little early. I want to talk about this story in this book. Now, Gary Chapman has written lots. Number one, all the things. He's written like 40 books, Gary Chapman, or more. He's got a lot of books out there. This Love Languages book is his most popular book. But then he's written one for children. He's written one for teens. That one down here. But the one for children is actually really good. It goes just a little bit into little bits and pieces into all 5 love languages, but then has a big chunk of it of just about parenting your kids and showing love to them. It's a really good book. I kind of enjoyed reading it. But there's one particular story that he highlights. I'm going to read you guys just a little chunk of love language, acts of service, in our children, if that's their love language. There was a dad and his 2 sons, and they were seeking out a little help because there was some communication, some barriers here that were going on. And the dad says, I am all about my kids just doing whatever it is that they need to do so they learn the skills. And I take a step back, figure it out yourself, was always his answer to his 2 boys. So Gary Chapman comes to him and says, well, obviously there's a little problem here. Let's figure this out. What I want you to do is go to your sons individually and say, do you feel loved? And so he did. And the first son he went to, and the son says, yes, I feel loved by you. You always, give me praise when I figure something out. And obviously words of affirmation was his love language, and the dad was feeling that. So he goes to the second son, which it took him a few days to get to. His name is Jack. And he goes to Jack and says, Jack, do you feel loved? And here's Jack's response. That time when I was 10 and having a hard time with my math, I asked you to help. Jake continued. His name's Jake, it's not Jack. Jake continued. You told me I could do it myself because I was smart. And I knew you knew how to do it, and you could have helped me. I knew you knew how to do it, and you could have helped me if you would have just explained it. But I felt a little let down. Or that time that the wagon got stuck and I asked you to help me get it out. You said I got it stuck and I could figure out how to get it out. I knew I could get it out, but I also wanted you to help me. Those are the times that I felt you didn't care. Like I said, I know you love me, but I don't always feel that you do. And it goes into that the dad starts to cry because he never realizes that this was his son's love language, and he was just saying, figure it out. But his son could have actually used that positive help, that positive attitude, loving service to just walk alongside him and show him how to do it. Every once in a while in parenting, right, we need to stop for an attitude check. I think we're all there. We've all done that. And so kind of reflecting and our acts of service actually showing love. Do they show love to our child? The other day, last Sunday, I was sitting in the dining room actually reading these books, preparing for today, and my boys share mowing the lawn. That's one of their chores. So Evan had done the backyard, was already in the house, up in the shower, and Kieran, our freshman, was out doing the front yard. And we have a push mower, and Kieran comes in, he's like, the lawnmower's out of gas. Brian was gone, or my older son in college is gone. And so I'm like, well, I think you just grab the thing, you open it up and you dump it in there. And so he says, okay. I said, why don't you just go figure it out? I hadn't read this part yet. so I say, go figure it out. And he comes back in like a minute later. Mom, the tank's too full and it's just spilling. Like if I do it, it just spills. And so I said, well, honestly, Kieran, I don't even know I've never done this before, how to help you right now. But Evan does. I know Evan's done it. We just heard that he was, just up in his bedroom getting ready out of the shower. So he calls for Evan. Evan actually did it out of loving service to his brother, walked down there. I think so. There was no stomping. I didn't hear stomping involved. He went out there and showed him how to do it. But I thought that's a perfect example or opportunity that they just need help. They don't know how to do it. That help is showing them how, the way a teacher would, I would say. Let me show you how to learn how to do this on your own, but out of loving service and kindness. Checking our attitude too. So, this is the last thing I want to chat about with parenting a child, with parenting all children, but specifically around the role of acts of service, is us being a role model for that. Showing others how we serve others, showing our children, rather, how we serve others. Whether that is, hey, Dad's going to be coming home from work tonight, and, he loves it when we, whatever it might be, have all the toys picked up. Let's do that for Daddy, and let's surprise him with a little sign or a card that we've made. And he walks in the door and gets to see that. Get your children involved in that act of service for your spouse. Get your children involved in serving and helping others. They actually really love it. Here at church, oh my goodness, the opportunities that they could have helping to serve. Sharon Tiemann, you know her, knows everything. And quick phone call, quick note to her would say, what are some ways that my kids and I can help? I know trunk or treat is coming up. Maybe you do a trunk with your children for trunk or treat and pass out candy and go to a fun event and do that together. Just showing service, because the ultimate purpose of acts of service to children is to help them emerge as mature adults who are able to give love to others through acts of service to others. We want our children to do that for other people, to put other people before themselves, to act selflessly, so this continues and grows for generations to come, that we put others above ourselves. So that starts with us being a role model of that in our own homes. So that's what I've got that I read, and I'm just sharing with you what I read. Any questions or concerns about acts of service with our children, with our loved ones, or maybe it's your love language, or maybe you have a kid who definitely acts of service is their love language. I'll share a funny story with you guys. So I tell you, I have teenage boys, right? So the oldest one, I didn't have him take, he's in college, I don't know, I just didn't send him the test to take the love language test. But my other two boys, I did. I said, can you guys fill this out for me? I want to be able to know where your love language is. So Kieran, my youngest, does it, sits down wholeheartedly. I pretty much am like 100% certain I know what his is. And so he finishes it, and I said, well, I think I know. Can I take a guess? And he said, yeah. I said, it's receiving gifts. Yes, it is. I'm like, yeah, I know. You love presents. He's always loved presents. So that's his love language. So then I go to Evan. Evan's, if you guys know Evan, he's just kind of stoic. I have a hard time getting him to talk in general. And to me, he's fine. He just does his own thing. And so I give him the test, and I'm like, scores are pretty high for physical touch. And I'm like, he never really likes me to hit him on the back or anything like that, or just even give him a hug. And I start reading the actual circles that he made, like the answers that he made. And he's saying, like, I like it when you kiss me unexpectedly. Because the test is actually for spouses together. And I said, well, just read it in a way like your mom. And then I come down to him, and then he says, I like it when you hold my hand. He circled that one, and I'm like, Evan, did you actually read the words on the page? No. Towards the end, I just started circling things. I'm like, seriously? Because I'm like, I'm pretty sure, like, we don't kiss. And I know you don't really want me to, like, grab your hand and hold your hand. Because he's just, like, So, yeah, so actually when a person fills out the test, like make sure they read the words. And so I said, I'm giving these to you again tomorrow and you're gonna do it again. I never did, and I should, and I need to figure out his love language still, but anyway. I don't know what it is, I really don't. He's my anomaly, I can't figure it out, so. But any other questions, other things that you guys have noticed with acts of service or the love languages in general?
I'm curious through all the weeks who discovered their love language, and I'm sorry I interrupted, but going through and that test is kind of a painful test because it's the same thing over and over, and by the time you get to I would have done the same thing as the
end. Notice the question.
I'm done. So what you do see something emerge, and for some people, nothing emerges. It's equal across the board. Others, it's very obvious. I'm curious, did anybody going through this last 6 weeks, did you really discover one of your children's or your spouse's your love language? Was that, anybody want to share that? Anybody have an epiphany on a family member?
I didn't know that my husband's love language was quality time, so that's his top, and this is my bottom. So after 27 years of marriage, it was shocking to find out that's what it was. And I sort of learned, he traveled a lot, like 50% of the time the first 25 years of our marriage, and I learned to just do things on my own. And now I find out, of course he's really only been home for a couple of years, but it's quality time, who knew?
Yeah. And that's probably a little bit harder for you then to take the one you least speak to share it with somebody. It's a little bit easier when you speak it too, or it's top a little bit higher for you. So you've got to give some concerted effort. Yeah. But I'm sure it's all worth it.
And I interrupted, but somebody.
Yeah, Ron, you were going to say something.
Love language with siblings, the kids, like your two sons putting gas in the lawnmower. Your one son that came and helped probably.
I'm sure he's like, you can't figure that out. Yeah.
So can you fit that into the siblings doing love?
Acts of service for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we certainly, I think it first comes with us being role models of acts of service for them. So then they see, like, if we're going to huff and puff walking out there to go fill the gas tank, well, then they're probably going to do the same thing. So it takes us, they're always watching us, man. But they are. And so I think it starts with us modeling the appropriate way, and then our words, encouragement. So, Andrea.
I think it was, I could be wrong, but what like Missy was doing, I don't remember what her point of topic was, but
Physical touch.
maybe that's what it was,
Yeah.
but like the nature versus like nurture, and like I never realized like I am my mother's daughter. Just the Italian give, like, gifting, and like that's me.
Yeah.
And like it's just like, oh my gosh, like the realization of like, no, I grew up under that, and
I think a lot of maybe that whether it's nature or nurture, it's maybe how we were raised and where we are now. That's how we speak, or the love tank that we need filled.
Yeah, and to add to that too, it's like acts of service specifically. She even told me like she was never allowed to do the dishes and cook because that's how her mom, like, I'm doing everything and I'm a mom and I'm taking care of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my side, my mom, I remember it always stuck with me. My mom told me how she would always do that, and I kind of remember that. But then when my sister went off to college and she called her, how do I make scrambled eggs? And she's like, that's when it realized, like, she's trying to show love by doing everything for her, but then there has to be that balance of, and so for me, like, we're her 5-year-old daughter now, we make eggs together. You know, so that always has stuck with me ever since I was.
By golly, she'll know how to make eggs. Yeah. I love it. But yeah, you're right. Working alongside together rather than doing it for them, we have to do it with you. So. That's cute. Actually, I am going to go ahead and close this out in prayer today, and then I don't want you to leave just yet. I have one more little announcement to make right after we're done, but let's pray real quick. Heavenly Father, we thank and praise you for who you are and your perfect example of love in the Bible, especially Jesus and what he did for us. Lord, help us to look to you as our example, as our person to go to, and our God. And Lord, help us to act that out in our daily lives with our loved ones, our children, our spouses, to fill them like you'd like us to do. In your name we pray. Amen. We're going to just quick announcement here. Next week, Sunday at this time, there are no Bible study classes. There's a ministry fair in the gym, right? Done in the gym where you can go visit some different ministries that are here at Emmanuel. If you're talking about serving and modeling for your kids, what a perfect example to maybe sign up and do something together as a family or as a spouse and model that for your family. Ministry fair, there's also some food and goodies to eat in there too, I think, next Sunday. And then the Sunday after that, we start a new series in here called Guarding Your Family. You can read a little description of it right here on the front. And then we have various presenters, just sharing with you what we've learned and read and talking about ways we can guard our family in this crazy world that we live in. So, all right, thanks for coming today, guys.